Now we move on to public participation and the public forum, and I've been advised that Flip Out Christchurch, Andrew Moss, would like to come and speak to the council. Good morning.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to come and talk to the council today. I have a presentation which I'm going to go through very, very quickly. It's a two-part thing. It's the background of what Flip Out actually is, and then there's an issue that I have with some flooding that I'd like to bring up with you as well. So Flip Out is in Bromley. It's been open for about 1.5 years now, and it's quite been a successful venture for the east side of Christchurch. I'll just whip through some of these. I know you have these already on your iPad, so you could you look at them. But we have a mission, and there's the things that we want to have in the mission. Here's the facility itself, 1,700 square meters facility. It has a wide range of different surfaces that people can bounce on. And we also have supporting things like cafes and on-site Wi-Fi. We have 65 on-site car park spots as well. Last year we had about 75,000 visitors. We employ 12 staff. And we're moving towards making this a venue for entertainment in a broader sense, not just as a trampoline arena. So we have live bands that play there, break dancing, circus performance, that sort of stuff as well. This is just a quick view of the inside of the facility. If you haven't been there already, I do recommend you just even come and have a look. It's very visually impressive. Here's some of the investments that we have put into the facility. It's about $1.3 million in the fit out. The building itself was about $7 million of remediation after the earthquake. We have about a $265,000 payroll per year. It's been a 3-year project for me so far, and we're on an 8-year lease. We involve a lot of community groups, school groups, and other groups, and use this facility quite extensively. So I'm just taking a little second for it to come. There we go. We're trying to expand what we're doing to keep it interesting for everyone. We have activities for all ages, all abilities. As you can see here, we have kids from 1 year old. This boy is just starting to learn to walk, and we have quite high-end people as well in there. Special programs. We do offer a lot of courses, classes, activities for, again, a wide range of people. One of the next things that we're going to incorporate into Flip Out is technology at Flip Out, and that's really bringing technology into the environment. So things like the Internet of Things will be put into Flip Out to make it more stimulating for the people that are actually doing the physical activity. We're looking at some image capture technologies as well, and some VR technologies as well. So over the next few years we have some good plans to bring that sort of technology into Flip Out. We are a good community citizen. We do a lot of outreach programs with festivals that the City Council organizes. We go out to schools, bring air tracks and coaches out to help kids learn some of these activities. We do host clubs at Flip Out, parkour clubs, slackline clubs, martial arts, and breakdancing clubs. All are resident at Flip Out. This is the event that I'd like to bring up with you today, and it's to do with flooding. On the rain events, we do have, it is particularly busy for us. Obviously, not too many people want to go to the beach or the pool or other places, and so generally Flip Out becomes extremely busy during the rain events. On a rainy day, we can have up to about 1,000 people come through the facility in one day. And unfortunately, right now, we have surface flooding that happens. Last year, we had 8 days of surface flooding. This is surface flooding that goes right away across the road. It floods half of our property. and makes the operation next to impossible to run. Half of our car park gets flooded, which means those 65 car park spots are irrelevant, because when we're busy, we need those car park spots and they're flooded. There's no street parking when it's flooded. There's no cycle, pedestrian, or accessible access to the facility when it's flooded. We have had loss of property, flooded cars, cars that have been parked in the flooded area and they've been damaged. Of course, it's very dangerous, and after that, there's a huge cleanup exercise that we have to do after the event happens. All of our garden beds are all wood chips, so of course, when a flood happens, all the wood chips get lifted up and then get spread around the neighborhood. This is a photograph of the actual event. You can see in the center up, there's a cyclist who wants to come to Flip Out. There's no way that they can get there. We have to move all of the cars from our parking lot where they're parked, and when the people walk back from the cars, of course it's raining and they're getting soaked and they're not very, very happy at all. The impact on a business, now we're getting to the point where people are phoning us up when it's raining saying, is the road flooded? If the road's flooded, I'm not coming. And that's totally unacceptable, of course. I've talked a little bit about this already. We have a high risk of flooding. You can see in the first photograph there, that's the tide line where it's coming up to our building. We have a $60,000 foam pit that's just on the other side of that door. If the foam pit gets wet, we'll have to replace the foam in there. And that's a very big risk, or very big concern for us, of course. If there is flooding inside, we will have to close the business for that day to do cleanup. And that's a huge impact on our revenue, of course. So I'd like to, I think the action that's required is allocate some funds and resources to correct this problem. It's been 7 years where this problem has been existing in this area. We have brought this up to council last year. There has been no action. The council has put pumps, but the pumps have not been effective at all. We've had one day where they've pumped this water into the storm sewer, into the wastewater sewer, and that was reasonably effective. We got rid of the water after about an hour and a half. All the other activities have not done any, the water stays there for 7 or 8 hours. Obviously, the kids' safety is at stake, and Flip Out, I think, has met all its obligations as far as the resource consent, being part of the community, adding a lot to the community, and we think we've gone well beyond the requirements that we need. We need good infrastructure to run this business. That's the bottom line. And right now, as you can see, it's hindering us doing business in Bromley. That's all I have for today. But, please, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Sorry, Jamie. These are not the best ways to raise these issues with the council, because you get 5 minutes, and I've allowed you obviously quite a lot over that, simply because you wanted to state your case. My proposal is that we refer this to the Land Drainage Recovery Program Working Group, which Pauline Cotter chairs. She also chairs the Infrastructure, Transport and Environment Committee. I know that this piece of work is on the work program, but I'll ask them to respond to you directly, if that's okay with you.
It's fine. Again, it's just a concern of mine, because we need some action. That's what I'm looking for. And appreciate you. I mean, it is a channel that's available to you, so thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is... No, I don't need a resolution. We can just make that happen.
And will it come back to council from the Land Drainage Group?
Why?
How do we get progress on this? It's been to community
Yanni, don't do that. The next person is Lindy Harwood, End of Life Choice, Christchurch, regarding the End of Life Choice bill.
Okay, can you hear me? Because I speak quite quietly. Okay, so in the 70s and 80s, I lived in Nelson and was a bit of an activist, was involved in Native Forest Action Council. So a lot of our native forests are now there because we had stalls, and we ran the huge petition, the Maria Declaration, which was the biggest ever in New Zealand at the time. Okay, so 6 years ago I moved down to Christchurch, and now I found myself again in a bit of an activist role. I'm secretary of the End of Life Choice group in Christchurch. As you'll know, David Seymour's bill has just gone through the first reading in Parliament, and is referred to a Justice Select Committee with deadline for submissions on the 20th of February. So we intend to run a few information stalls between now and that date as part of a democratic process. We know that 75% of people support this legislation in the polls, but they don't necessarily realise it's important to put in submissions. So unfortunately it seems virtually impossible to find anywhere in Christchurch where you can legally hold an interactive information stall, especially one that's deemed political, as we are. So we've farmers markets, malls don't seem to be available. Street stalls, I think, are not legal. You do sometimes see charities, but it's very rare to ever see any sort of activist type of stall. If we try and put up information in libraries and community centres, they're now so inundated with information that it's impossible to guarantee that we can ever get anything in there. You can't just go into a library anymore and ask them to put up information. It's all centralised and has to be distributed, and then if they don't have the space, they just don't put it up. So the council website invites applications for permits or consents for amusement devices, mobile shops, street performers, hawkers and retail stalls, as well as a 1-hour speaking slot in Cathedral Square. You do sometimes see information stalls of a political nature at our rare rallies like the TPPA one or climate change. But those aren't, this isn't what we seek. What I'm asking is, where are the outlets for interactive promotion of ideas, ideals, questioning around issues of social importance and encouragement of public debate? There seems to be such a fear of upsetting people if they don't agree with you. But I would say clearly everyone has to be allowed to promote their own particular views, and I recognise that means people that don't agree with me. Please don't say Facebook. You know, we're not all into social media, and I think it, especially older generations. By not having these outlets, freedom of speech is limited, and we depend increasingly on trying to force media interest in order to get coverage, with the risk of bias of any non-conformist ideas. I'm talking freedom of speech, democracy versus PC, and dislike of any messy controversy. I do believe that it is the Council's obligation to facilitate or enable that process of allowing the unimpeded right to inform and be informed. My recommendation is that there could be a few central spots made available around our city which would be suitable for stalls where the aim is to disseminate information, run a campaign, make a protest. Ideally, they would be sites with consistent local foot traffic, so not tourist centres. I don't actually believe the Cathedral Square is appropriate for this purpose. Covered and with easy car access or parking for conveyance of tables and display material. One of my thoughts was possibly outside libraries.
Well, look, thank you very much, and this was my suggestion that you come and make the presentation, because I think in making it in the public, you've also highlighted the issue, which does need debate, and obviously there are questions and answers, and I totally understand your point around engagement. I mean, you can get engagement across social media, but as you say, that's not for everyone. So it's an opportunity to actually have a conversation. We see a lot of groups in different places in the city in terms of stalls and things like that. There are options that are available, and libraries certainly do engage in some of these tough issues from time to time as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask the head of the Chief Executive's office to go with you and to talk through some of those options, and then if there are still some gaps and things like that, we can have another conversation about that. But it's great that you've brought this to the council, and obviously that is something that we might get one of the committees to look at as well. But I think there are options available to you that perhaps you're not aware of, and that will help kickstart the process.
I did actually speak to a member of Kafka because I happen to know him, and he said they'd had the same problem. But anyway, yes, thank you.
Okay, that's great. All right, thank you very much. No deputations by appointment, no presentation of petitions, so we'll move